conversation, Rufai, in terms of, we said that the president should come out and speak to the people, and that especially his handlers, his spokespersons should be more, their language should change. And we see this happening. Your take on the story?
I think they're not ready. President Tinubu, with due respect, sir, you are not ready. If you don't want this strike, you know what to do to the people or the protest. Engage them. They're your citizens. See, people used to say this thing, you go explain tire. As a leader, you must explain tire. The people did not vote for Information Minister or Mr. Bayo Onanuga that is abusing everybody, and now Mr. Peter Obi has instituted a suit against him. He said if he doesn't apologize 72 hours, he will sue him. Maybe Mr. Peter Obi was even listening to the show. You must engage. At first, you don't engage your people. You came, you don't engage. Since President Tinubu has been president, how many interviews have you seen? Over a year. How many sit-downs? You don't engage your people. We don't know your mind. You come, you give recorded statements, speeches, well choreographed. That's not what the people want. They want engagement. They want to hear you, that you feel them. I put an option earlier on yesterday. I said President Tinubu can do a syndicated Twitter Spaces. Syndicated across every platform. Engage the young people. Have conversations with them. It's not by sending security agents everywhere to say, oh, don't remember what happened in NSAS. And for security agents reminding us what happened in NSAS, hell yeah, we also remind you of what 2012. Why was there no violence? There was no chaos now. You shut the country down for 2 weeks. There was no chaos. So stop using NSAS as a benchmark. We had protests in this country in 2012. Nothing happened. So protests can actually be peaceful. Occupying Nigeria was peaceful, except for one killing of Demola Yaya Baton. In fact, people had carnival-like atmosphere at the Ganifa Wemi Park in Ojota. So stop bringing reminders of NSAS. Truth has to be told. A president needs to engage his people. And it's not these handlers that will keep speaking. President Tinubu, you still have the time now to do it. You still have the time now to do it. Don't let your advisors mislead you by saying, no, don't worry, we'll handle it. They are never in your best interest. Your advisors are in their own best interest. They think about themselves. You are just a tool to make their dreams work.
Okay, very quickly. I think a number of principles need to be stated. The first is that the right to protest is constitutional. Nobody is opposing the right to protest. And I think that the Nigerian government should not oppose the right to protest. What the Nigerian government can oppose is the resolve to impose chaos on the state. People going about on Twitter saying Tinubu must go, Nigeria must collapse. Now, that's not protest. That is bordering on the grounds of an attempt to mobilize anarchy. Now, the protest, as proposed, is supposed to take place from August 1 to August 10. And they have called it Days of Rage. There is no responsible government that will sit down, fold its arms, and allow people to say they are going to impose rage on the country. And we must know, we must all realize that the state has a responsibility to prevent chaos, to prevent anarchy. Whoever is in power, whether it's Tinubu or is anybody else, there's a state, qua state, that has a responsibility to make sure that this space called Nigeria remains at peace. Number two is the fact that we should understand the contemporary context. The people who have been referring to, okay, in 2012, there was a protest in Ojota. In 2014, President Tinubu said this. All of that was not in the context of violence. They were giving people designer T-shirts. They were preparing pepper soup for people at Ojota Motor Park. Okay, that was what happened at that time. NSAS came later. Okay, NSAS had its own contradictions, its own discontents that have remained unresolved. But the contemporary context that I'm talking about is in the context of the Kenya riots, which led to the death of 50 people. Now, what happened in Kenya has caused another commotion in Uganda. In Uganda, they have a Stop Corruption protest. Yes, they have a leader, Museveni, who has been in power for 40 years. And Museveni told them, well, I'm not saying you should not protest, but go ahead and protest. But if you cause violence, we will respond appropriately. Now, you can say Museveni is, a dictator. But all of this, again, has to be seen in an historical context. You remember 2011 Arab Spring. It started in Tunisia. The thing spread throughout, the whole of the Middle East, leading to regime change and all of that. So the fear of the establishment, is understandable in that regard. However, the point must be properly made that if it is peaceful protest about whatever, people are saying Ibn power all over Nigeria. People are saying, look, there's too much hardship. Yesterday we were told MBS jacked up, told us that interest rate or inflation rate has gone up. Monetary Policy Committee has increased interest rate. Okay, all of that speak to the hardship in the country. What we can say is that President Tinubu should listen to the people, address their grievances, particularly about hunger. But nothing in the Constitution of Nigeria gives anybody to preach violence. And the state has a responsibility to protect itself and make sure that violent people do not hijack the state. Everything else beyond that is politics.
All right, yes. Usually the challenges with protests is when they are hijacked by unscrupulous elements and they make it violent. If you look at and study the previous protests, they were done by the people who spearheaded it, were done peacefully. In fact, like you mentioned, Rufai, after a while, they would provide a community such that people even begin to make friends, talk, because everybody is, or most of them, are united by one common goal to see a better Nigeria. So if we're looking at violence, what should happen? Should be that the security agency should use the intelligence provided, especially as the UN has also raised the alarm that some elements might want to hijack. The key word is hijack these peaceful protests and make them violent and provide security for Nigerians who have a right, guaranteed by the Constitution, to protest. So that's what should happen. They should use the intelligence to protect the Nigerian people, not just to protect the government. You are there to protect the people, not just the government. You are there to protect Nigerians' lives and properties. So if you hear that people want to hijack a peaceful protest because people are unhappy what is going on in the nation, then you should use the intelligence to protect, send more people to protect the people. That's what the Nigerian security agencies should be doing. So if there's any violence that happens, the onus should be on the Nigerian security agencies who did not use intelligence to do what they ought to be doing. But aside from that, I said it yesterday and I maintain that stance, that what this administration would want to do is to avoid protest, because we have seen the effect of this. No president, no leader wants to see the loss of lives of his citizens. And so we called for engagement, dialogue with the people, not just from us, from different quarters as well. A number of people have said, NLC said so, NAN said so, open up the dialogue communications. I want to say the first step has been done. I don't think it's enough in terms of the Minister for Information. He's talked about, and now they're highlighting and talking about interventions. This is what we said. Communication is important. You cannot say we're doing, but no one sees or feels the impact of what you're doing. So the fact that he's come out to now detail the intervention of this administration to alleviate the sufferings of Nigeria is commendable, but not enough. He talked about the swift passage of the national minimum wage. Good. He talked about distribution of rice. Don't forget, only 24,000 bags of rice went to 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory. And we talked about it yesterday, how it will just come up to perhaps a handful of rice or just a small. It's insufficient. So whilst you're doing that, leading up to the 1st of August, rather than posing threats and getting people to come out and say, oh, this is a... Bring out people who will do things. Let Nigerians feel the effect and see that you're serious about listening to the people. Hold conversations. Let us see the president. We want to see the leader. Yes, he cannot be speaking all the time, but once in a while, hold a youth conversation. Call a few key youth leaders, have conversations with them, and highlight or detail the plans and follow up with action. So many things to be said, but I'm hopeful that in the course of today's show, we'll be able to break it down a bit more. I'll reiterate, no one wants protest because of what could happen in terms of it being hijacked. However, the president and the leadership must sit up to demonstrate to Nigerians that they are serious about dealing with the issues.